What is up, Straight Talk Society? This is your host, Trevor, and I'm back with another episode of Five Count, my five takeaways from tonight's episode of WWE Monday Night Raw, night two of the 2024 draft. Tonight's show to me felt like a show that they were just trying to get to next week to reset the rosters because the reset of the rosters take place May 6th. So I'm assuming that's next Monday. So that's what tonight's show felt like. Not really too much storyline progression because the rosters aren't set. You still had people showing up from other shows. It was, this wasn't a string of the great Raws that we've had in the past. But hopefully, now that the draft is over and we get the rosters reset, we get through Backlash this Saturday. Speaking of Backlash, I will be doing a live watch along for the main event, Cody versus AJ Styles. I will be doing the live watch along as that's going on. But hopefully, when we get through Backlash, all the stories will reset and everything will go as accordingly. But nevertheless, you guys came here to hear my takeaways. So here are my top five takeaways from tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. It's not really going to be the five. I'm just going to give some quick takeaways and then we'll go into the draft and then I'll get out of here. So my first takeaway from tonight is the monster returns. I was so happy to see the return of Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman has actually been gone. He got hurt May 1st, 2023. So literally a few days away from being one calendar year since he's been out. Who was it? Jey Uso was getting beat down by Logan Paul in the Judgment Day. All of a sudden, out comes Braun Strowman. It was a weird thing at the end. He got into Patrick Mahomes' face. Patrick Mahomes had a couple of guys with him, and Braun Strowman was telling them, "You're gonna need more than that to handle me." So that was kind of weird, though. Babyface Braun Strowman getting in the star quarterback's face. That was weird. They did have an exchange where Patrick Mahomes gave Logan Paul his rings, his three Super Bowl rings, and he clocked JD McDonough in the head by accident. So that was cool because he has the left hand. But nevertheless, another takeaway from tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw is the IC title scene is heating up. So you had what was heating up to be a great match between Bronson Reed and Sami Zayn. And just as Sami Zayn hit the haluva kick, going for the pin, all of a sudden, the camera just does that slow crawl up. And Chad Gable, who Sami Zayn had punched in the face earlier before he walked to the ring. So Chad Gable German suplexes Sammy right on his friggin' neck. Like, it looks so nasty. I'm assuming they're setting up for a triple threat at Backlash this Saturday. It hasn't been announced, but I'm thinking that that's where that's going. That match should be fantastic. And my last non-draft takeaway from the show, CM Punk just continues to troll Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, unlike any other superstar, is pissed at his draft position, which why the hell shouldn't he be? Former world champion, former WWE champion. Why wouldn't he be pissed that he wasn't taken on the first night? It just makes all the sense in the world. He comes out complaining as he always does. CM Punk's music hits. CM Punk is up in the skybox. Drew goes looking for Punk. Punk comes down to the ring, sits cross-legged, trolls the hell out of Drew McIntyre. Man, when they have that match, I don't know when Punk is going to be cleared. Obviously, he's not cleared for this Saturday, but when they have that match, man, that is going to be fireworks match. That match is going to be full of fireworks. The last thing that I do want to say about tonight, I did not have it pictured, but Nia Jax showed up and ended up having a match with Liv Morgan, which she lost. And it was just a complete cluster. I guess the match was okay, but Tiffany Stratton was sitting at ringside for some reason. Naomi came out, attacked Tiffany, threw her over the barricade, got hit off the ring apron, which caused Liv Morgan to hit the what was it, the code breaker, and then the oblivion, which wasn't a good oblivion to Nia Jax. But what could you expect? Nia Jax is a much bigger woman than Liv Morgan. I just don't like the look of seeing Liv Morgan beating a Nia Jax like that. That just doesn't look good. But nevertheless, it is what they did. So let's get into this draft. Now, just like I did on SmackDown, I went from the first round down. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to see the progression of who was picked where. So here we go. So you did have the first round. Note Raw did get 6 rounds versus the 4 that SmackDown got. So in the first round of night 2, Raw selected Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser. So they selected Imperium minus Vinci. So they kicked Vinci out of the group. What I did notice in this draft, unlike other years, if you were in a faction, you stayed together, which I guess I like that. I don't like the fact that I'm breaking up tag teams and things like that, unless one guy is like just completely hot, like Jey Uso, so much more hotter than his brother, so he could stand on his own. But they drafted Imperium with the number 1 pick. So the way they do their picks is different, because you guys know how pissed I was Friday night with Gunther not being picked. But I don't think they do it in that respect. Like, hey, number 1 pick, they do it by the days. So Gunther's still considered a number 1 pick, but he was just picked first on the second round. I mean, on the second night. So that's how that goes. SmackDown's first pick was Jade Cargill. I got no problem with Jade Cargill being picked that high, because they're picking on potential. But when you look at the later draft picks, it's going to be a head scratcher. Raw selected Damage Control. So now the entire Damage Control now goes to Monday Night Raw from SmackDown. So they're not in it with Bayley anymore. So I guess the payoff was Bayley defeating Io Sky at WrestleMania, and KO remains on SmackDown. Again, the way they structured this is you aren't only drafting new people, but you're also trying to keep your people. So that's, which being Nick Aldis lost Damage Control. I mean, big loss. So let's go to round 2. So round 2, the first pick in round 2, Raw picks CM Punk. So let's look at logic here. Let's look at logic. We know CM Punk is a great big superstar. We know he's a great wrestler. We know he's great on the mic. We know what he brings. He's a needle mover. He's a merchandise pusher, but he's hurt. He's only had 1 match since he's came back. And you mean to tell me you're going to take him with the first pick in the second round? Make it make sense. SmackDown drafted the Pride, which I didn't know that was their name, I guess. Bobby Lashley, B-Fab, and the Street Profits. So they remain on SmackDown. Then this was not the head scratcher, but this was the one where we looked up like, oh, when I heard it, I was like, damn, did they say who I thought they said? With Raw's second pick in the second round, they took Braun Strowman. Again, like I said, Braun Strowman has been out for like 2 days shy of an entire calendar year. Then the second pick for SmackDown in the second round was Tiffany Stratton. Listen, Tiffany Stratton is great. Tiffany Stratton is fantastic, and she will be in a triple threat with Bayley and Naomi this Saturday. So I get it. Tiffany Stratton is probably their replacement for Charlotte. So let's go to the third round. In the third round, Raw selects the entire LWO. Again, factions are counted as one. The problem here is the LWO is pictured with Carlito, the same Carlito that footage was shown that he double-crossed them, the same Carlito that attacked Ray and Dragon Lee once the footage was shown. He wasn't there tonight, but nevertheless, they drafted them all together. That doesn't make any damn sense in the world. That makes 0 sense. And of course, the next pick was going to be for SmackDown. Legado del Fantasma stays on SmackDown, which I'm happy for, because I'm tired of seeing LWO versus Legado del Fantasma. Let them feud with different people. You got LWO now. They could feud at Judgment Day. Dominic Mysterio and Ray had a stare down. So here's the head scratcher of the night. I mean, again, you talk about logic. That's all we're talking about. We know this is wrestling, but we're talking about logic. Drew McIntyre is your hottest heel in the company. Drew McIntyre is legit number one pick material on any brand after Gunther. You pick Drew McIntyre second pick in the third round after the LWO, who doesn't win any matches. Drew McIntyre just basically co-main night two of WrestleMania and won the world championship. Like, come on, man, this is ridiculous. And then in another head scratcher, second pick in the third round, SmackDown draft Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, Nakamura hasn't won a match in legit maybe 4 months. Like, he's not worthy of being drafted. He needs to be in one of those supplemental drafts where they just pick random guys after the shows goes off the air. I would have took somebody like a big Ivar right here. So that was a terrible pick by Nick Aldis. So here it is, head scratcher again. First pick in the fourth round, Judgment Day. So you, so you mean to tell me Nakamura goes higher than the Judgment Day? Let's go one. LWO goes higher than the Judgment Day. Come on, it makes no sense. First pick for SmackDown in the fourth round is Naomi, just like AJ Styles. AJ Styles was the first pick in the fourth round Friday. Naomi wrestling against Bayley, former two-time champion, first pick in the fourth round. Tiffany Stratton, NXT, goes ahead of her. I mean, like, the logic here is it literally makes no sense. This is probably the steal of the draft for Raw. They got, they fleeced SmackDown. They got Ilya Dragunov with their second pick in the fourth round. So that was fantastic. Glad to see Ilya coming to Monday Night Raw. If taken care of properly, which I don't see why he wouldn't be, Triple H is probably going to push him to the moon. That guy is phenomenal. Then the second pick in the fourth round was Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Shout out to Bones. Piper Niven, he could see his girl Piper Niven on Friday nights. So the fifth round, in the fifth round, so let's just look at logic again. The first pick in the fifth round was the New Day. I mean, New Day is longest reigning tag team champions. Well, wait, most reigns are longest reign. Forgive me, I get those two mixed up. But very very decorated tag team champions. They go first in the fifth, and then first in the fifth for SmackDown, they take Pretty Deadly. That's a New Catch Republic pick right there. Like why don't you take New Catch Republic, who was just feuding for your titles? Pretty Deadly is a comedy, job squad team. Like I don't get, I really don't get where they're going with that. Raw's second pick in the fifth round was a great one. Lyra Valkyria from NXT. What I did like, because I didn't like the draft, but what I did like is they had a camera at NXT with all the NXT talent there sitting down, and as they were called, the pure emotion of watching them get drafted made you feel like the NFL draft. Seeing those young kids get called up to the NFL and the emotion of them with their families, the NXT kind of replicated that when they got picked, to see them crying and coming up to the main roster. But again, nobody explains to me why you took Lyra Valkyria over Roxanne Perez, who's the NXT champion, when last year Indy Hartwell, who's the NXT champion and hurt, by the way, got drafted. It makes no sense. Why would you take Ilya Dragunov over Trick Williams, who beat Ilya for the NXT title? All they had to say was, hey, just like they said for Raw and SmackDown, the champions are protected. They can't go anywhere. All they needed to say was, hey, you can't take our champions. Problem solved. But nevertheless, final pick in the fifth round. I mean, hey, they're just swapping teams right now. Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Maybe they'll get some shine on SmackDown because they get a lot of TV time, but they aren't over at all with the crowds. Tonight, Candice LeRae had a match with Maxine, what's her name? Maxine Dupree. Maxine Dupree is not good, and that reverse caterpillar could be the stupidest thing I've ever seen in wrestling. It just logically just makes no sense. It's just really really stupid. Let's go to the sixth round. So the final round for this 2024 draft, you had the first pick for Raw. The final Testament was drafted to Raw, so that's good. Get them away from the Pride. DIY first pick in the sixth round to SmackDown. So DIY is now going to SmackDown. So I guess they're gonna go feud with A Town Down Under. Big Bronson Reed, who's in the IC title hunt, he was drafted in the sixth round, and the final pick of the draft to SmackDown was Blair Davenport from NXT. Now Blair Davenport has not really done much in NXT. She is a good wrestler though. Just she'll help fill out that women's division. Her, Kiana James, but again, it's like you you have Roxanne Perez. You know what I mean? You know what? If I'm gonna take a Blair Davenport, I'm gonna take Tony D'Angelo and the family. At least that's a good act that you can have on SmackDown to kill some time. So the draft was ridiculous. I get what they wanted to do. It was a time filler. They were riding off the vapors of the NFL draft. I get it. Hey, and I'm pretty sure they did good ratings because people just like stuff like this. I like stuff like this. I just didn't like how it was done. I would have done it more so like a free agency type thing. But I do respect them for saying that, hey, it's not about just drafting new talent, is about protecting your existing talent. But when you have a Drew McIntyre being picked on the second day in like the third round, I mean, it makes no sense, none at all. When Drew McIntyre is the hottest heel in the company, and I think I read somewhere where he just recently re-signed a new contract, so good for him. I hope he got a boatload of money because that guy definitely deserves it. Can't wait for CM Punk to get better so they could have their feud. But what I am glad now is that the draft stuff is over. We can get through Backlash, and I think Backlash is going to be a pretty good card. But I want to get through Backlash, and then we could reset the rosters, and then that way we could judge this whole Triple H era. We could see is Cody and AJ going to go more than just past Backlash? Are they going to start heating up Gunther? Well, Gunther, and Cody won't be going at it because Gunther's not on SmackDown. But you know, who's going to be Cody's next opponent going forward? Who's after this? Who's going to be Priest's next opponent going forward? Hey, we'll see. But guess what? Those have been my 5 takeaways from tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. Peace.